So on this side, Ciudad Acuna, Mexico, here we have the Haitians behind me, Haitian migrants who are stuck here. They actually will load up their supplies, and you guys can see they've used this rope, and with the rope, they'll hold on to the rope, and you can see the man in the red shirt, he has a bag of supplies. He's actually, that's the U.S. side. That's Del Rio. You guys can see the Border Patrol is up there with a couple of Texas State Troopers. But this is happening in real time, and this is happening throughout the river where the Haitians on this side will bring supplies to the Haitians on the U.S. side. One thing that's pretty common is that some of the Haitians actually return to the Mexican side because due to the bad conditions and only eating one time a day. So we're seeing that in real time, and them using this rope here to transport supplies over to that side. That's the U.S. side. That's Del Rio, Texas, and we've never seen really anything like this. But this is they're going back and forth, and the border is wide open. We'll keep you guys all the updates as we get them here in Ciudad Acuna, Mexico. Once again, I'm Jorge, Ventura, reporter with the Daily Caller.
How long have you been down there in Del Rio?
So I've been here for four days here, just documenting, and it's still, like I said, it's still very shocking just to see just a small town like Del Rio take this huge influx of migrants and seeing the impact on the local community and also the Mexican town across it in Ciudad Acuna.
Why Del Rio, Texas in particular? This is, I think, one of the first times in terms of my consciousness of the whole immigration crisis that we've had, the whole border crisis that we've had, that Del Rio in particular has become the focal point.
Yeah, so the past few months, I've been here documenting Del Rio, and one thing that we've been running into is just a constant flow of Venezuelan migrants crossing into the river. The reason why the migrants like this Del Rio section is because the Mexican town across from it, which is Ciudad Acuna, is actually one of the towns that are actually least controlled by the human trafficking cartels. So one thing when I'm in Rio Grande Valley is all those Central American migrants, when they cross the river, they actually have to pay the cartel. And that's one thing that we find when we interview the Central American migrants is they have these wristbands on their wrist, kind of showing the proof of purchase. That's not actually what we see down here in Ciudad Acuna. There's actually no fee for these Haitian migrants to cross. Now, the reason why we're seeing this huge influx at one time is a lot of these Haitian migrants were actually stuck up in southern Mexico, which is Tapachula, and they actually couldn't leave without proper paperwork. And one thing that I've been finding out when I interview these Haitian migrants is they said that on the week of September 12th, which is known as El Grito, which is a Mexican independence holiday, they said that all of a sudden the local town government actually gave them access to leave Tapachula. And that's why we're seeing this huge influx all hit Ciudad Acuna at one time.
So what exactly what kind of documentation do the Mexican government actually want from them? And for the people who were stuck in the southern part of the border, what was the Mexican, if you have any idea, what was the Mexican government's plan? Were they going to deport them to Haiti? Were they going to keep them there? Could they apply for asylum in Mexico?
So one thing that we've been finding out is that Biden took a kind of a similar approach that Trump did. So one thing that Trump did is he actually pressured the Mexican government to keep those migrants in the southern states. So let's say if you were coming from like a Guatemala or Salvador, you couldn't leave Tapachula. That's something that we've seen with the Haitian migrants. So the paperwork that they needed is a kind of like a permanent resident status in Mexico. But this paperwork, I don't know if it was done, on purpose or things like that, but it just took months and months. So every time these Haitians would check in with the immigration offices in Mexico, they wouldn't have any progress. So essentially what happened is just all these migrants kept bottling up this one town in southern Mexico. And they all told me that, like I said, the week of September 12th, which is the week that the Mexicans have an independence holiday named El Grito, all of a sudden they said due to the festivals, they were allowed to travel. And that's where you see all these busloads come into Ciudad Acuna, which is one of the more safer zones for these Haitian migrants to cross, so they don't have to actually encounter any cartel and pay any type of fee to cross that river.
So this massive inflow of Haitians into the United States, what you're pointing to is that this is the result of Mexican government actions. They released this pressure valve, basically, and all of a sudden, Haitians who were living in southern Mexico are all moving into the United States now.
Yes, exactly. And if it wasn't for that, like I said, they couldn't move anywhere outside of Tapachula and Chiapas down there in southern Mexico until that proper paperwork. But the Haitians were telling me that every day that they would check in, there would be no progress. They had almost essentially little work for the Haitians as well. They were telling me that they were sleeping on the floor and basically having Haitian makeshift encampments in Tapachula. Now, this is just me speculating. I don't know, if the Mexican local government said, hey, we have a celebration this week. Maybe we don't want this community here. And all of a sudden they just let open the floodgates and finally let these Haitians travel freely, which they all took that, not all of them, but majority of them did take that opportunity to finally leave Tapachula.